Hey guys, Epicenter Brian here. Today I'm going to take a look at my beloved Bang & Olufsen 4002 turntable, which is malfunctioning, and I'm going to see if I can figure out what's going on with it. This is what it looks like. This is a belt drive turntable, and it's got a linear tracking stage back here that has a tone arm with the stylus on it. And then it's also got a second arm here. Now this arm has a sensor that can sense what size record is on the turntable. So what happens is you press the start button and this starts going across, and this sensor arm can determine if it's got a 12-inch, a 10-inch, or a 7-inch disc on it. So anyway, let me show you what this is doing. If I hold the start button down, you can see the turntable's going, the sensor light's on, the speed selector has been selected, but if I take my finger off, everything stops. And it's not supposed to do that. This button is really supposed to start the sequence, but it won't run if I take my finger off. I think I've made the discovery. So here's the deal. I'm going to manually turn this little motor, and this will take just a little bit. You should hear a click any second now. There. You heard a click. You can see a sensor light went on down in here. Right now it's set at 45, but I can change that to 33. And everything seems to be running. So theoretically, I should be able to press this button and make this go forward. And I can't. But here's the interesting thing. If I press rewind, you see that? It did go to the home position and it turned off, but it won't start back up unless I manually move this motor forward. Okay. Looks like I'm on to the problem. So first off, I've got the little belt disconnected here so the motor can spin, and I've got a couple of meters hooked up. And this appears to be the problem, this section of the circuit. So here is the motor, and to turn this in one direction, current flows through the motor in one direction, and then to turn it on in the other direction, it goes like that. So anyway, there's a handy little table here that shows some voltages when the different buttons are pressed. Now remember, forward and on don't work right now. So anyway, let's look at rewind. So right here at this point, we're supposed to measure 5.5 volts. So we'll take a look at that, and you can see we're measuring that, and this one is supposed to be 1.4 volts. It's actually lower than that. So anyway, that part of that circuit works. Now we'll do the fast rewind, and that is supposed to be 13.5. It's 14.5, and I can't adjust that. Now this one, the 5 volt, I was able to adjust, but this one, there's something wrong with the adjustment pot, which is one of these up in here. So anyway, I think what's happening is we have a blown out transistor. Actually, I think we have a pair. I think this one, for one, because we see that there is a hot spot on the board right here. Kind of hard to see, but there you go. There's a little dark spot. So that's transistor 25, but I also think that this number 20 up here is burned out, which explains why we're not seeing any voltages here. So in these different switch settings, either the on or the fast forward, we should see these voltages at that location, and we're not. So those are on this meter when we do that, and when we do that. So we should be at 13.5, and we should be at 5.5. So anyway, I'm going to get some parts on order, and have to put this back together to sit on the shelf for a little while, and then we'll mess with it when the parts come. Well, now it's 5 years later. Today, it's 2022. I got back to the project, installed the transistors, and they promptly blew out again. So I went looking for the real issue, and let me show you what the issue was and what I did, and then I'm going to put it back together and give you a little demo. So originally there was a pulley that looked like this, plastic, and it had been tightened down too much and it cracked it. And so it was actually wobbling a little bit. Well, I didn't realize that it was actually touching the bracket. So every time it rotated, it caused a little bit of extra drag on the motor. And then additionally, it had the wrong belt on it. This is stiffer than the original one. And this is actually a square belt. It was supposed to be a round belt. So I got the correct belt, but I also found a guy in Lithuania that makes new pulleys for these. So I got one of those on order. And then since I had to replace the transistors anyway, I went ahead and upgraded those. The original transistors were only good for 0.8 watts, and I went ahead and replaced them. Instead of putting them on the board, I put them over here. These are 40-watt transistors. And what I did was I built a little heat sink to mount those, and then this heat sink bolts down into the existing metal, okay? And so that whole piece in there is one big piece of metal. This transfers the heat from the transistors down to all of that metal, so these don't even get warm. Anyway, it's worked out really well. Now what I wanted to show you also was I added some Teflon in here where this cable runs, and you'll see that. And I lubed all the parts and all that kind of stuff. So let me just show you how cool this is. Right here, how much clearance there is when this comes on this end. Okay, look at that. Looks like it was made to fit. So that worked out perfect. I'm going to go ahead and put this back together and I'll give you a quick little demo. Now the reason this was such a big deal about the mechanical issue is that if you add friction, you're requiring more work out of the motor. So work is equivalent to power. Power is current times voltage. So if the applied voltage to the motor is the same and you require more work out of it, then it's going to draw more current, okay? And that's why those transistors blew up. So the addition of the Teflon, the new lubrication, the correct pulley with the correct tension and the correct belt made all the difference. You know, the original transistors I'm sure would be fine, but I didn't want to take the chance since I was already in here messing with it anyway. So this upgrade on the transistors made a lot of sense to me, and now I'm going to put it back together. I'm going to show you how it works. Alright, she's all back together. Let's check this out, see how it does. Boy, that is a good looking turntable. Alright, 5 years. But I got the project done. For the Epicenter.com, I'm Epicenter Brian, signing out.